Happy Memorial Day weekend, babies. And happy Pentecost. Because these holidays are converging this weekend. You gotta love it. So let's celebrate the remembrance of those that have gone before. And let us celebrate Shavuot, the celebration of the children of Israel gathering at the foot of Mount Sinai, and God's desire to consummate the forging of a nation in marriage with Israel. You know, God does always get what he wants. God desires that all men be saved and come to the knowledge of the truth. God's intention at Sinai was to draw the children up the mountain, and he wanted intimacy. He wanted relationship. Had that scene in Exodus, the book of Exodus, turned out differently, our historical narrative in the Bible may have been different, but the Lamb was slain from before the foundations of the world. So one way or another, that was going to come on the scene. Jesus was going to come on the scene. And with the actual circumstances that unfolded, where Israel was cowering in fear and biting their nails and says, oh, no, we're not going up there. Moses, you go up and talk to God for us. Spurning the Father's intention. Wanting an in-between, a middleman. And the more that I have given thought to this celebration of Pentecost today, I've got to kind of fall into a category that's maybe surprised me a little bit. I'm maybe not just religiously detoxed. I maybe not just one of those casualties that have been chewed up and spit out by the legalism of Pentecostal churches, whose namesake comes from Shavuot in the gathering around Sinai. Could it be that I'm anti-Pentecostal? Let me play with that label for a minute, because I still see the tendency in the human heart to want to have a middleman, to want to have somebody do the business for them, to sidestep and put all kinds of obstacles, obstructions, and excuses up in the place of intimacy, which is what Israel did at Sinai, and they brought the law down upon themselves. So Moses was their middleman, and the Christians in the Middle Ages had the Pope, the infallible, inerrant decrees of the Pope handed down. You know, if you don't agree with him, we'll burn you with a stake. I mean, this stuff like this actually occurs because instead of having a vital interpersonal relationship with a God that has availed himself completely and utterly to us in Christ, we still want a middleman. And evangelicals today, dangerously skirting the edges of this human tendency by ensconcing the Bible in the place where the Pope used to be, and completely defeating the purpose of the Bible by chapter and versing and lining and precepting everything instead of entering into a vital relationship. And it's become in as much as it's become an instructions manual, it's the middleman, instead of the invitation to come and to respond to it as a love letter and just bear all as God has borne all to us. But you know what? God desires for all men to be saved and to come to the knowledge of the truth. And I've heard that contend with that, well, no, people go to hell, or they have their choice. And C.S. Lewis says, hell is locked from the inside, and it's, our own personal choice that lands us in unfavorable consequences. And salvation is not for all. It's only for the elect. And so this pattern of thinking, I'm just wanting to challenge it. God always gets what he wants. And the intention for intimacy that was stated emphatically by God on Sinai, resulting in the law because of the non-response of Israel, he got his way on the day of Pentecost in Acts chapter 2. God always gets his way. And I am quite aware that there are dissenters from the peanut gallery that are quietly watching my theological liberation. I was going to call it an evolution, but it's actually a liberation when you take eternal conscious torment off the table and understand that God always gets his way, that all men will be saved, and that Christ died for the sins of the whole world to redeem the whole cosmos. The scope of our salvation kind of broadens quite a bit. But I know that it's a cudgel and it is a crutch for a lot of people, that if they didn't have the fear of hell to lean upon, that there are a lot of things within them that they fear would be manifested. So, a lot of these zingers that I throw into these videos are specifically for people in the peanut gallery. I don't know if y'all knew that. I want to be a holy pest, and I hope I'm succeeding. But when you talk about how all will be saved, God desires all to be saved. It was his intention to be intimate and to engage Israel at Sinai, and they failed, and they chose not to. They were defaulted into the dispensation of the law, which was a drag. It wasn't God's intention. They brought it upon themselves. It was their own choice. It was hell for them, locked from the inside, and they could have come out at any time. David actually did in the Old Covenant era. I mean, David was the one that was actually tapping in and prophesying most of all of them, and experiencing the powers of the age to come, which at that time would have been the age of grace. And he was walking in it. and we have some goods to walk in ourselves these days. There's things that are available to us, but we still default to that old covenant mentality and calculate who's in and who's out. But God always gets his way. And I hear disputing from the peanut gallery about, especially regarding near-death experiences where people have unpleasant encounters that have somehow become, they've come back and conveyed that back into this world. And I am not denying that God is a consuming fire. I am not denying that there are unpleasant consequences to face. But the idea of eternal conscious torment and eternal punishment in hell by a retributive and vengeful God is not only unbiblical, but it's heresy. It is heresy. So let me turn the tables on you. Cat. I am coming to understand that these near-death experiences and whatever testimonies of encounter that there may be after death, that I had a loved one actually during a trying time in my life and in my familials' lives that manifested a whole lot of rage on me not a long time ago, and just vehemently like, go to hell, go to hell. Like, I guess they were angry. You know what I mean? So what happens when that kind of vitriol is hoisted upon someone? How do we empathically receive that kind of malice? How do I empathically receive fiery darts lobbed in unbelief and fear from the peanut gallery about my theological stand in universal reconciliation, where there are earnest infernalists amongst you that want to correct me and show him the hell, give him a tour through the corridors charred with the flames of the inferno. Really want me to see that? If you really want me to see something like that, if you really want me to be traumatized to that level in order for me to come away with your train of thought, there's something wrong with you. Big time. And it's become my persuasion that eternal conscious torment and that fear of damnation is actually a mind bug, and it's contagious. And when you lob those kinds of dire intercessions on somebody and they end up empathically receiving it, I don't doubt that there may be some sort of unfortunate or unpleasant encounter as a result of a mindset that has been inflicted from another dark mind. And if you hold eternal conscious torment and that retributive and vengeful nature of God in your heart, if you hold that, then this is a mind bug. It's a mind bug, and it's contagious. So, there's a lot of verses, there's a lot of tradition that obviously point to the possibility of unpleasant repercussions and consequences in this life and after this life. There are a lot of verses also, especially in epistles of Paul, that point to the redemption of the entire cosmos and everything in it. And I guess it just depends on what place you want to plant your flag in. What verses you want to use as your filter to view this life and the afterlife. And what it comes down to, I mean, even the fear, the trauma, the nail biting, the damnation verses that you could cite to me. I mean, there's people that have had near-death experiences of positive nature and a negative nature, and it's all subjective experience. And you're receiving conclusions and forming dogmas because of what this preacher says or what this tradition holds or what this verse says. Those are all your choice as subjective experiences. And there are just as many verses for universal reconciliation as there is for eternal conscious torment. So it comes down to how you see God. It comes down to what testimony in Scripture are you believing. If you are holding eternal conscious torment as a dogma, you've got to reconcile that as the nature of God that you want to be intimate with. And if you're able to be intimate with Him, if you even have a relationship with Him, I mean, if you are cajoled through fear to fall in line because you don't want to experience the white-hot displeasure of the Most High, I mean, be saved and go to church and hold your traditions and blah, 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 blah. But I'm not sure how much of the actual goods of the kingdom you're going to be experiencing as far as peace, love, joy, bliss, ecstasy. I mean, there's some subjective experiences that you may sell yourself out of concerning actually engaging God on an intimate level, because you're holding upon subjective experiences based on fear from verses that point to eternal conscious torment. So, chapter and verse me all you want from the peanut gallery. Throw your fiery darts and blah, 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 blah. But the fact of the matter is that God's nature stands alone. And the Bible is a testimony of God's nature. And my personal experience and our subjective experiences are also a testimony of God's nature. So let the idols be damned. Holy fire. Fire in your lives. Fire in your lives. You want fire? Take fire. Take fire. Take fire. May your idols burn to ash. Let's find out in the end. Let's find out after all is consumed what the nature of God is really all about. I know he's benevolent. I know he's passionate. I know he's loving. And I know he's not retributive. And I know he's not vengeful. Idols be damned. Idols be damned.